Thank you so much for jumping on Topeka Insiders. And today I have the honor of having Mike Drippe, Mr. Drippe, here on the show.
Thank you, Chen.
Episode number 6 is going to be a fun one. Me and Mike have been Facebook friends for 3-4 years, but I just recently realized he was the founder and president of Drippe Homes. And how surprising is that? And so we went back and forth through some email communications. And I just wanted to have you on here, Mike. Thank you so much again for coming here.
Thank you for having me. This will be fun.
So. And Mike has more than one amazing stories to share with us. And he's just extremely humble person through email and in-person communications. We're going to dive right into it. So
absolutely.
Tell us a little bit more about how you started in Tennessee way back when. Before we're going to dive into Drippe Homes and all the glamorous and glory homes that they have built. So we're going to dive into that a little bit.
Thank you, Chen. It's been an interesting journey. My parents like to move a lot. So I was actually born in Oregon and then moved to Florida and then moved to Alabama. So I grew up 13 years in Alabama before we moved to Tennessee, which is where I kind of got I went from being a kid to a teenager, and then in college, that's kind of where I cut my teeth in the working environment. So we grew up with pretty humble roots. I think a lot of people can relate to that. You know, you don't have everything you want, and your parents try to do the best they can with what they have. So my mom was unusually thrifty and had taught me some lessons because of the limited finances that we had. And so we learned how to dumpster dive. We learned how to go to the day-old bread store. We learned how to get our clothes from the Goodwill store, whatever it took to allow the money to go far enough. And so one of my probably best lessons was getting tired of wearing the clothes that were from like 20 years ago. And like, hey, I would like to have a new pair of pants or a new shirt. And so they said, well, if you want that, why don't you get a job? And so that got put in my head that, oh, if I want to better myself, then I need to go try to find a job or some way that I can generate some revenue. And they were good instructors on that. And they always told me to do what you enjoy, follow your passion. And as I think at the time I was 14 or 15, you don't have any skills. So what could I find? So I remember finding a job with a farmer, and he said, well, we'll pay you a nickel a bale to go and haul hay. So these bales of hay or alfalfa, and they weigh about 135 pounds because it always seems like they got rained on, and then they'd rake it over and then they would dry it out again and then bundle it up. So they have a little bit of mildew in them and this extra weight. And so I was always kind of a small person. So at the time I only weighed like 110 pounds. So it was really hard to get these bales up there, and the cords and stuff would kind of cut into your hands. And it was like, oh my God, I had no idea that work was this hard. And so we would start at 6 or 7 in the evening, and you would work all night long, because if you worked during the day, you would probably get heat stroke and die. So it was very hot, very humid. And so I had never stayed up that late, and not to mention doing the hardest work ever. And so we'd get home at about 3 or 4 in the morning. And I remember counting up all the bales, and it worked out to $35 for working all night.
Just one night.
One night. And I was like,
so let me do the math real quick. You said a nickel a bale.
Yeah.
Right? So $35 would be 350, right?
I think it was 600 or 700 bales, as I recall. But it wasn't just you. There was a group of people.
Okay.
They had this kind of old tractor and flat wagon. Anyways, that was my introduction to work, and it was probably like a Marine's introduction to a boot camp. It was just like, whoa, I had no idea it was this hard. But you can get used to it. The body can get used to a lot, and I was happy to have work. So I then took that lesson and that little bit of money, like, all right, I can buy some clothes now. And you're going through schooling. I was homeschooled from 6 through 12, so I didn't have a lot of other people to interact with. But I had a desire, I wanted a vehicle. I wanted to have some things so I could get around and, maybe go find some friends to hang out with. I had a few people, and so they wouldn't allow me to work at a fast food restaurant. And at the time in the early 90s, it was harder to find employment. And I remember going to the grocery store and filling out my applications, and no, we don't need you. We don't need you. I'm like, what the heck? And so finally I found a job with the same guy that we hauled hay for. He decided that he would hire me on to help him with his dairy farm. And then he also had a job, or his main business was building log cabins from scratch. So I did the dairy farm thing, and I actually worked for another dairy farm guy for a while. And then as time went by, he started bringing me out onto the job sites and teaching me the basics of carpentry. And these log cabins are not kit ones; they are made from scratch. And so a lot of times they're salvaged from original log cabins from back when they first settled that area. And so they would reuse the logs and then make new ones if they didn't have the right sizes. And, it was a long kind of, you from start to finish, you do everything in there from the foundation to the last finishing touches. So it was such a cool job to be an artist, to kind of express yourself as you had more as you learned more about it. Because when you first start, you do the menial things like stacking the lumber. So we did a house that was board and batten, and so that's a kind of a different style of construction. You use timber framing, and then instead of the log look on the outside, they have the rough sawn boards, and they nail all those up, and they put these little strips to kind of where they butt together, if that makes sense, because the
Yeah.
wood shrinks and contracts, and so board and batten look. And I got to go stack all that. I remember the sawmill had like 10,000 board feet. I mean, it was this huge pile, and you have to go lay it all out there, and you put what's called stickers out there, and then and that allows air to move through that to dry it out. So I stacked all that up, and that took about 2 or 3 weeks. And then you come back, I want to say it was that fall after it dried out, and he had a planer to smooth, because some of it went on the outside, but a lot of it went on the inside. So I had to go plane it. I mean, we had mountains of shavings and just big piles, and you just keep running boards through, and just board after board. It was kind of monotonous, but I was just happy to have a job and happy to do woodworking and happy to just be gainfully employed. And it was just a really good lesson for me. It was tough because your body's not used to it. There's the physical side, but then there's the mental side, going from your cushy, let me go do my school assignment, to, oh, now I got to go work out in the heat and humidity
Right.
all day long. And I know many people do that already. It's just part of the journey that was fun for me to learn that if I applied myself, even though I didn't get paid very much, I could grow. And personally, I'm a stronger person. I'm learning more skills, and now I have a little bit of money to go. And a lot of it I spent on more woodworking tools. Me and my brother for a while had a willow furniture making company. We kind of did it on the side, and he still does that till today. I mean, it's amazing. I did it at the time when we were 15 and 16.
Wow.
And you could
Incredible.
make a little bit of money by cutting down the new growth willow, and you bend it, and you make these chairs, and you make little benches. And it's kind of a cool, it's just a rustic thing. And they had a lot of craft shows there in Tennessee, so we would set up and sell that stuff. Just hey, we're trying to get ahead, but doing what our passion was. So I did that till I graduated, and then it was time to go to college. And so I went to college in Kentucky, and the college we went to was Berea College, small over in the Appalachian Mountains.
Okay.
I went there for about 2.5 years, and I don't know if it was the ADD or what. I just couldn't sit still. I couldn't stand being there.
College is not a thing for
Yeah,
everybody, though.
and I think if I had gone today, I would have been fine. But then I couldn't sit still in that classroom. I just, man, get me out of here. I just can't do this. And so eventually I said, this isn't where my passion is. So I ended up dropping out and decided, hey, I want to go back and I want to work in construction. And more of it was I had a passion. I wanted to go build furniture. And so I had done a little bit of furniture building on the side, but I didn't have very good tools. So I was able to save up enough to get some of the basic stuff to start furniture building. And so I went back to work for the guy doing log cabins work and restoration. And then on the side, building cedar chests. I built some bookcases. I built whatever furniture people wanted, and a lot of them, they take, 2 or 3 months to build a piece, because
Right.
your tooling is not very sophisticated, you want a good fit and finish, and so it just makes it take longer. I wanted to learn how to do cut, dovetails and all the fancy stuff. I had a lot of fun with it, and then out of the blue, my family decides that we're going to move to St. Mary's, Kansas. we have we're Catholic, traditional Catholic, and there's a group there that kind of had the same views that we did. And so as a family, if you recall from earlier, my parents like to move a lot. So
Right.
it's
So that
kind
would
of,
be the fourth move, right?
I think I'm
Lost
losing
count.
track.
Losing
Don't
track.
forget, I moved to college for a while.
But that was in your early
I-
20s. Like your
yeah,
family
I was
decided to move
21
again.
to Kansas, so in 1996. And I'm like, I am sick and tired of moving, but this is it. I'm gonna just, I hope I don't have to move again after this. And other than moving around locally, I've stayed in the same spot. So I come to Kansas and the work journey continues, again, trying to better yourself. When I made it to Kansas, I only had $400 and a old pickup truck and a few tools. So I was just like, this is what I have, one way to think about starting your career, if you don't have a degree, is that you don't get paid as much, but in a sense, you could look at it as you're getting paid for schooling. Somebody's teaching you a skill or a trade, and you're getting paid for it, as opposed to going to school where they're teaching you something, but you're having to pay for it. So
That's amazing perspective. Thought of Mike.
that's the way I looked at it. And my heart was in learning more skills so that hopefully someday I could have my own business. And that was a goal of mine. So when I first came to Kansas, I worked for a commercial remodeler.
Mhm.
And it wasn't my first choice, but it was what I found. And so we went to work in Manhattan, renovating some of the store spaces. And I did that for a couple of years, but he wasn't a real good businessman. And he he would try to pay everybody as a 1099, but we were technically employees. And
Oh, I
and,
see.
and eventually that caught up with them. And I think I had shared with you, I finally got tired of it. There was two things that made me say, oh, it's time for a career change. The one was that he didn't pay very regular. And I told you I went 10 and a half weeks without
Yeah.
getting paid.
That must be really
Ran
tough.
out of gas. His wife had to come literally to the gas station and give me enough money so I could put gas in my truck so I could just get home, because you just were out of money.
Right.
He to his credit, he got me caught up. He paid me, but then we just started not seeing eye to eye. And so we were working on a job site, and he was up on the roof and I was cutting for him down below. And I don't know if people know what a piece of OSB is, but it's a piece of sheeting that goes up on the roof. They're usually a 4x8 sheet, and this was about a half sheet. It's about 30 pounds. Anyways, he got mad at me and threw it off the roof, and it just went sailing right over my head. And I'm like, oh, maybe it's time to go somewhere else, because
Wow.
he literally could have took my head off, and it'd been a construction accident. So I
Oh my
don't think I
goodness.
want to do this anymore. So I switched and again followed my passion, which was woodworking. And that passion led me to work over at Kansas Hardwoods in Bellevue, which is probably, I'm not sure if you can think of a harder job physically to go to. So let me paint a picture for you. I did
Sure.
not do it
Yeah,
for the
sure.
money. I did it because of my passion of wanting to know what was on the inside of every tree. What does that lumber look like? How does it work? What can I do with it? They sawed up a bunch of different types of species that were from Kansas. And so you go there, and it's an old kind of building where they used to make alfalfa along the railroad track. And there's no heating and cooling. There's not even a restroom there. I mean, literally, you have to go behind the building, which again, you're scratching your head like, do these people not have any kind of understanding of taking care of employees? We think about how hard it is today to hire and find good quality help.
Right.
Like, you have to do everything you can to take care of them. And this
Right.
guy didn't even have a bathroom. and
Then we're talking about weather in Kansas as well, right?
yeah,
So the
you
summer will
are.
be super hot and the
Oh,
winter will be like extremely cold.
absolutely. Yeah, no, you look like the what would you call it? The Pillsbury Doughboy in the wintertime. You got all your layers of clothing on, and then the summer you're down to whatever you can to get through it. It's tough work. So they bring in these big semi loads of logs, and you have some equipment to unload them and stuff like that. And then you have a winch truck, and you take this big log, and it's so heavy the winch truck is like tipping back and forth, like, because of the weight. You keep it a couple inches above the ground so you can bring it along, but it's so heavy that the front of the truck's lifting up.
Oh boy.
So you get it over in there to the sawmill, and then you're able to use the hydraulics and tip it up, and you can rotate it, and then you start sawing it up and stuff like that. And these boards are just 50 to 200-pound boards. And they're a lot of times they have this solution of diesel fuel that they spray on the blade because of the gum there's like a gum inside there that clogs up the blade. So if you spray this diesel fuel, it'll dissolve that and allows you to keep sawing. Otherwise, it cakes up and then it won't saw anymore. So you smell like diesel fuel and all the sawdust everywhere, and it just is just in your hair, in your face and your ears, and you shake your head and
I'm assuming there was no protecting gear or anything like that. It just
I don't remember any.
because as you were describing that, so I'm assuming that was just raw footage. Like
Yeah, I don't remember any, but when
wow,
you're in your 20s, you don't think about
that's
stuff
right,
like that.
that's
And
right,
now that I'm in my later 40s, I would encourage everybody to please wear hearing protection and eye protection and respiratory protection. I didn't do that near as much as I should have.
right. Wow,
And so you hope that there's no damage from that, but at the same time, I wanted to I wanted to follow my passion, and I wasn't afraid to work hard. I mean, it was very physically demanding. I mean, you're always stacking lumber, moving lumber around, and I got to see a bunch of different types of trees. And I worked that to a point where it was finally time to start my first business, and that was furniture building. So
that's very exciting.
yeah, I really enjoyed designing my own furniture and then figuring out a way to build it, and then finding clients, customers who wanted it, and realizing that I'm an artist more than I am just a worker, because I really enjoyed that, but unfortunately it didn't pay very well. And so I would have people say, well, I have this piece of furniture, the picture that I can get at Walmart for $900. Can you match that price? Now this is building it from scratch. I'm like, no, I can't match that price. Well, then I'm just going to go buy it from Walmart. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So I got enough work to pay the bills. But at that point, I think I was in my mid-20s, and I had met my wife, and I realized, I probably better get serious about making money, or I'm not going to be able to afford to be married. And so at the time, I think I made like $400 a week is what I got to keep. And so it really wasn't enough to pay the bills. So I had a background doing residential construction, and I should back up. As part of my journey, I had done several summers of doing trim work and stuff on new homes. So I had some skills there, and so I went back to work for somebody else as a 1099 again. So, but kind of operating as it was my own business. So I really, that's what jumped me into home building. So going from being a trim carpenter to expanding that to building decks, to doing framing, to what else did we do? I mean, there's a lot of things in construction. Those are probably the primary things, and doing those for other builders, and following the building economy with its ups and downs, and eventually saying, I can do this, but I can do more. So I started doing some remodel work, and I remember the first few I did, I never even I didn't even get paid to facilitate it. I just got paid for the actual work that was done. So
I
I
see.
managed it for free, but I wanted the experience, and those went well. So we did more, and then we started figuring out how to charge for, hey, my time's worth something. And by then I was
Right.
married, and we were starting to have more kids and stuff. So I had to get it right. There was, we better not get it wrong. And I remember when we built our first house, I'm like, I'm going to do this. We're going to meet, honey, here's our lot. We're going to go build us a home. And she was really excited about it because we had bought in a house, and then I had fixed it up, new windows, new siding, new flooring. We just new deck. We just every extra hour I had, I put into to fixing this house up. And we had some people that wanted to buy it, and I'm like, wow, I'm looking at them like, honey, look, we're gonna make, we're gonna actually make some money here. This is so cool,
Right.
And so let's build this house. So we worked on the design, and we spent a bunch of time trying to get the colors and the design. It's our first one. I'm going to manage it. I've never done this before. I had a good friend that really gave me who was a builder that we had worked for, and he gave me a lot of good advice on that. And it probably took a little longer than it should have, but it was our first one. And so we're getting close to being done, and she's all excited. And then I have a realtor approach me, because you know how those realtors are. They like selling stuff. He's
Yeah.
like, I have
I need to
some,
try that more, by the way.
I know. I said, so I have these people from California. They really like that house. Would you ever be interested in selling? I'm like, oh, let me think about it. I would. I don't know about my wife.
So you guys are still finishing up that house, and then somebody approached you to say, hey,
Yeah.
if you want to sell it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I talked to her about it, and she's like, oh, I trust you, whatever. And so
Right.
they had them look at it, and they were ready to buy it, and they wanted to come, be a part of St. Mary's, and we got the deal put together. And And at some point, we're getting close to closing, and somebody tells them, that he's never built a house before, and they freaked out. I'm like, whoa, what the heck? You haven't built a house? We're going to need to get an inspection. So they hired a third-party inspector. And I remember getting the report and feeling a sense of relief when the only high-level thing that he found was that on the bottom sides of the exterior corner trim, he said we didn't paint that. So I think
And that was showing up in an inspection report?
in that one. Well, inspection reports aren't always the level of qualification to be an inspector is pretty wide. So,
Yeah.
Some of them do a really good job, some perhaps overdo it.
Right.
And so that one was just funny because they were worried about a poorly constructed house, and you're talking about the exterior trim of the house on the bottom side that it didn't get painted.
That's incredible.
So
Somebody
I think we did okay. And so I took that. So we made that sale, and all of a sudden, me and my wife were like, "Where in the heck are we going to move?" Like and there was like 3 houses for sale in all of St.
So you
Mary's.
didn't have a house to move to at that time?
Not initially, but
Wow.
this because we're still in our old house. It closes when we get into our next house, which I just got under contract. So we were able to find a house a little further out in the country. It wasn't ideal for us, but we ended up living there for about a year or two while we built another house.
Okay.
And I was able to get that built, and I didn't sell it prior to us moving into it. So
So the first one was built in 2007, right? 2004-ish.
yeah, 2007 is when we built the first house.
And then that turned out to be the start of
Yeah, so
Drippe
that
Homes.
was home number 1, and now we're I want to say 900 and something, 20 or 30 homes later.
That's incredible, because one question I had when I was reading through this phenomenal bio, just I had a privilege of getting to know Mike a little bit more before he jumped on the show, is what was that thing that triggered or helped you develop that passion for woodworking? Was that just something that was already inside of you, just naturally, that you were born with that, or when you were having the summer job that just, wow, this is actually an area that I didn't know that I would be interested in?
I think it's a little bit of both, because once I got exposed to that through log cabin building, it just lit a fire in me, and I think I really have a passion for this. I really enjoy woodworking, and my family, we had a strong emphasis on art. So, a lot of my siblings comes from my mom, could draw or paint or express themselves through art. I was always the one that wasn't very good at that. So in a furniture building, I found a way to be artistic that I was actually capable of, as opposed to being a good painter or a good illustrator, which I was not very good at.
Okay.
So it just kind of fit in with the family upbringing that I had. And so it was just a way to express it. Hey, all right. Hey, I can do art too. It's just furniture.
It just was, a different expression.
Exactly.
It was amazing. So for the audience here, that if you guys have not heard of Drippe Homes before, definitely look up Drippe Homes on Google. And their mission statement was incredible when I was going through your website, to help you build your dream home for generations to come.
Yeah, and it's a passion that we continue with today. And it's such a personal thing for somebody to say, "Hey, we want a new home, or we want a home," and we're honored to just be a part of that. And part of our mission is not just to look at it from a business standpoint. Yes, you have to be profitable. Yes, you have to pay your employees, but this is something that's so personal to somebody that you really want to take the time to listen and understand, and guide them through this journey so they can get as much as they can for what their budget allows. We all have to live within our means.
Yeah.
And it's never been tougher than it is now, with the high cost of materials, still the shortage of labor, interest rates being really high. And so our ability to guide is something that I think helps us stand apart, and just really being an advocate for them and being patient with them through the process. There's many times we'll meet with people that we don't actually make a sale because it's not something that they could afford, or that they don't think they can get what they want, and they'll go save and they'll work towards that goal, and they'll come back. It's for us, not every person has to be a sale,
Yes.
because you want the best for that person. And, eventually somebody's going to have the money, and you're going to be able to make it happen for them. And we want it to be something that's sustainable for them, and that best fits their lifestyle, and that's a model that we can expand on, grow on. So I guess if you were to summarize, it would be more of an emphasis on the service side of it, with the art expression side being kind of the next layer to it, because, it's not about what I like, it's about what they like. And
Right.
so we take our skills and our background, and we try to find that marriage between their desires and budget. Let us create this art together, and I do look at home building as an art form, as I transitioned from furniture building into residential construction, I was like, oh, hang my head down. I guess, my parents said to always chase your passion, and my passion was furniture building. But in a sense, a house is kind of like a big piece of furniture.
That's right. Just bigger than the piece of
It
furniture.
really
But
is.
yeah.
And as I got older, my interest and desires changed a little bit. I went from the kid that had ADD that didn't want to sit still to I'm really starting to enjoy the business side of things. This is fun. This is like a big puzzle you're putting together.
Mhm.
So learning how to manage finances, learning how to manage a team of people, learning how to manage overhead, learning how you change as a person. It's not always about your bottom line or where am I at. It's become so much bigger than that. It's about your team. It's about the people who are around you who actually do the hard work. It's about your clients. And so I think a lot of people probably have a journey of maturing that way. We talk about, or I talked about, growing up, I don't want to say poor, but we didn't have a lot.
Mhm.
And so I was motivated because I wanted stuff. But as you grow up and you have some success, you can take that to what can I do for other people? What can I do from a charity standpoint? So
That's incredible.
each year we're on the 6th year of doing the St. Jude Dream Home, and we've done it. This will be our 4th time of doing it. Another local builder, Mark Bowling, he did it a couple years, did a great job, and we're on year number 6, so this will be our 4th time, and it's something that's near and dear to me. Who doesn't like kids? Who doesn't like curing cancer? I mean, this is kind of a no-brainer.
Right.
So it's just a really good way for us to give back. And I think it's it's just good for the community as everybody gets together, and whether it's the vendors, it's the the actual people doing the work, and then all the other people you meet that I didn't know who that person was. That was really nice. I'm glad they helped with whatever aspect they did, and then they sell tickets and raise money and
Mhm.
help a good cause. So
That's incredible. Because I had a privilege of touring the last year's winner.
Mhm.
That house, I think, was in Tecumseh. I think that one was in last year, 2022.
Well, that was definitely the last year.
It was definitely last year. So I walked in.
Um,
I knew the listing agent pretty well because it was up for sale from the previous
right,
owner.
right.
And then I toured. Of course, one, I was going through the house. I knew it was Drippe built,
Mhm.
but I didn't have this personal knowledge about who you are, your journey, things like
Mhm.
that. I've seen a lot of homes in my career, but when I was walking through the house, I was like, "This is a beautiful house."
Mhm.
Now I have to
Yes.
ask you this question because at that time I didn't have this knowledge here, and the knowledge you just told me.
Right.
So how did you, when you started Drippe Homes building, how did you convey that your artistic taste to your team to say, "Hey, this is my vision"? How did you put those into words or actions or embody that in your team? Because that's the whole image you put out.
It
I
was
feel like.
really easy at first because I was just me.
So you told yourself that's something you wanted to achieve.
I absolutely look in the mirror and say, this is what I want to accomplish, and this is who I am. And we still had a subcontracting crew doing trim work and decks. And so home building, it wasn't like you turn the switch on and today I'm a home builder. Yesterday I was a trim carpenter. You work into it slowly. So it took us a while to build momentum, probably 3 or 4 years, and then it was full time. We're just a home builder.
Mhm.
And so as I brought staff on, I probably initially didn't do the best job expressing what my vision was and what my goals were because they were to be determined. I knew what they were up here, but I hadn't proven them out for people to see. And so I really struggle sometimes telling people to believe in something that's not pretty clearly established. And so I had brought in people on board uh, for Nicole, she's my admin, and she's been with me for 13, 14 years. And when we first started, we just worked in my basement, and there was kids running around, and just me and her, and then I had one other guy, Dan Riccomini, who actually started with me doing trim work and decks and stuff like that. He worked for me as an employee. In fact, I remember the first project I ever had him help me on. He inadvertently kicked my cordless drill off the deck and broke it. I'm like, I don't know about this guy. Another dumb kid, but he's been an amazing part of our company as he's grown and matured over the years, and now he's actually a part owner of the company. So he's been him and Nicole and all my people have been instrumental in making this happen, because it becomes bigger than one person. It's not just me anymore. It's the sum of these people, and the best ideas, working through those together to problem solve and to try to get us to that next level. So
That's amazing, because yesterday I had the privilege of meeting Dan's brother, Charles.
well, he's one of 15.
He's one of 50. That's what I heard. And then the funny thing is, I was talking with Charles Chuck about, and then so he shared their Italian heritage with me. So now I'm putting all these things together, and then you hired him as your second helper. And
well, it's not just Dan. Dan it works for me. His brother Vince works for me. He has a brother Gabe that works for me, and his uncle Vince works for me. So we have a good Riccomini representation on the Drippe team.
So they all brought their Italian taste to it, because I was talking with Charles. I was like, hey, you're really well dressed. I mean, is that because you're Italian? And he spoke Italian a little bit. So this is just incredible, because these people were able to kind of showcase and represent the taste, that the artistic value that he had, just visually and also quality wise. Because for me, I toured that specific house, and I'm pretty critical when it comes to houses. I mean, not as critical as I'm painting the bottom of a piece of trim, but it was really different than any other new builds that I saw at that time.
We have a higher standard that we hold ourselves to. No, we're not perfect. And no, we don't claim to be perfect, but we do hold ourselves to a higher standard. And we hope that at least a few people out there will see that and appreciate that. But we do have a joke in construction that usually only 1 in 20 people notice those extra little things that you do. And that's probably not a fair statement. I think more than that actually see that and appreciate that.
I think your stuff, your quality has been well received, because on Google it's 4.9 ratings. I mean, everybody goes after that. It's really hard to achieve that.
We've worked hard. We've worked hard, and I'm hard on myself. I'm my worst critic, and I say, why am I not 5.0? But then my wife tells me, who's half Chinese like you are, she said, well, you'll be great Chinese. They're always very hard on themselves, and they want everybody to achieve the very most that they can achieve. And so
is that what she said? Really?
Absolutely.
For real?
Yeah, no, her mom's idea of the perfect husband was the doctor. I didn't quite fit that. So and so
you're a doctor builder. Right, Mike? You're a doctor
doctorate in building. I never got that formally, but it always keeps you humble. I enjoy and appreciate the constructive criticism that you get in life, because you can't get better if people don't help you see whatever it is that you might not see. And so I guess I wanted to add to just the level of standard that I hold myself to. To achieve this, you have to be hard on yourself. You have to demand the very best so that you get close to that. And if you don't have that discipline, it's really hard to get there. And so through my whole working career, it's just a willingness to be honest, to self-evaluate, to identify those things that you're weak on, to work to improve on those things, and to keep trying, keep pushing, keep doing everything you can to get to that next level. I look at people who are more successful, or companies that are more successful. How did they get there? And what did they do? What were their habits? And so I enjoyed studying that and the slow journey to get there, because it takes a while. It's not just a light that comes on, it's a journey. And so I always am reminded to be sure I enjoy the journey, because we all set goals. I think I told you I like to run.
Yes.
Got my marathon done.
Getting there, yes.
And you enjoy that for a few hours, and then what? Now it's on to the next goal.
Right.
I mean, obviously you want to savor and appreciate the things that you do. But for me, there's always more to be done. And it's not just me, it's our company. What can we do as a group? You are living through all these people that are part of your organization, and helping them hit their goals and dreams, and it goes back again to the clients, helping them with their new home. That's their dream. And if you can make that a reality, how special is that? So
Absolutely. That's incredible. So, and Mike, you have been an artist in building homes, and also just from the information and from the stuff you shared with me, obviously you're an artist in managing or helping people grow as well as individuals. So how did you, because I knew that you had a challenge of like really hard on yourself and want to be the perfect as can be. How do you convey that to your team and the people that you work with from a positive perspective? Because for me, I struggle with that as well, because I'm really hard on myself at a lot of times. But I would always come from a negative standpoint. Okay, I could achieve this, but I didn't. So how do you convey that?
How do you manage that in
Right? How do
a
you manage that?
positive manner is a
Yes.
really good question. And I will tell you, I'm not as hard on them as I am on myself. So I look at each person as an individual and just try to understand their strengths and weaknesses. And I try to see the things that I think will help them get there. And you never can lose sight of the big picture. Nobody's going to be perfect. But if they're in a good headspace, like you've given them the freedom to choose and to make something better, even if and allow them to make mistakes, they're much happier than if you're kind of a overreaching micromanager. That's not my style. And it didn't just happen overnight. It was, trial and error. You learn the right way to lead, and you learn the right way to elevate, and don't be afraid to delegate that. Don't, say, hey, you're capable. I think you can do this. We've explored it a little bit. You've tasted it. I think you have this, and let that person go. Follow in, check in, give them direction. It doesn't always work, but that's why but you don't know if you don't try.
Right.
And so, having done this over and over and over and over, let me tell you, I don't want to say it's a fine science, but I understand that it's possible, and that's how we've grown our company to this point, and maintained a culture where they thrive, where they are almost independent minded. Yes, here's the goal. Here's what we're trying to accomplish, but I'm not going to tell you how to get there. I'll give you advice. I'll try to direct you. I'll try to make sure I understand your personality and your strengths and weaknesses. So number one, I'm putting you in the right place. Number two, this little bit of direction, so we're all going in the same direction. If you start to turn this way, that might poke you this way, but I'm not going to tell you how to do it. Just here's what our goal is. And that freedom has allowed them to really prosper and to thrive, and to achieve things that I think are above average. And I don't know, I look at it as kind of an inspiration from even kind of how our country was founded, and kind of the ideals of freedom, and why is America better than other countries, and I'm not saying that we are the best country out there. I don't know. That's for somebody else to decide.
Right.
But I think we would agree that America's fairly successful, and we can learn a lot from that freedom. And again, it's probably a poor analogy, but I use it kind of as a philosophical guide in the way I run our company, to allow people to be their own individuals so that they can be their best,
That's incredible. That's incredible. Above all Mike's success, he's a great husband and a father of 10 kids.
I do have a couple.
You have a couple. So how do you, my next question, I would say a lot of business owners would have struggled with this. How do you keep a good balance between family and business? Because either side would have taken a lot of your time, right?
You're very correct. We all have 24 hours in a day. That's it. So it really is good time management. The first thing is that I'm trying to be a good supporter of my wife. Everybody will be happy to know that I go home and I make sure I help with the dishes. I help make sure that the table is clean. I'll clean the stove. I'll get the dishes put, the leftovers put away. I'll work with the kids to do that, so they learn these skills. I'll take a kid and we'll go clean the living room or the bedroom, and then some of the kids will go help my wife with laundry. Man, it's a full-time production over there to get them all fed, and she feeds us at a high level. She makes great meals. This is my wife Maria. She besides that, she homeschools 4 of them, and manages the house and the laundry. Yes, is she tired a lot? Yes. but we understood the burden that we were taking on to have a large family. And I know that she carries the majority of that weight. I just try to make sure I don't complain, and I make sure that I help out when I'm there, because I'm trying to balance my job, or the business, and I'm trying to manage my passion for running, and then be sure that I can still check that box as being a good husband and father to my kids. So
That's incredible. That's incredible. It just, all that just naturally came out that when you said it. But it's such a huge goal for a lot of people. That's a vision a lot of people, especially men, are trying to achieve. And it's extremely inspirational with this day and age and culture. And I think more people are wanting to become a role model like that, or did they desire
oh, I have a
to
long
do
ways
that.
to go.
Between all these pieces you manage. So what's your next question for you, Michael? What's your vision 5 years from now? Because after 900 plus homes, after 27 employees and counting,
Mhm.
and what's your vision from your personal standpoint?
That's a good question. There's a personal and there's a business vision.
Yes.
So the business vision is to grow and expand on what we've accomplished. Because real estate is a up and down market, though, our first goal may be to get adjusted to life with, 7% 30-year mortgage rates. That's not friendly if you're in the home building industry.
Yeah.
And it's not friendly if you're a realtor.
Right.
It's tough. There's not much inventory, and then the high interest rates, it's tough. So we know that we have to, I don't want to say reinvent ourselves, but we have some new goals to expand our territory, to double down on our process, for leading people, guiding them through the custom home build. We think we have an above average level of service for that. And then we're also looking to expand on, we've already done remodel. We're going to expand on doing more of that. And then we're also working on building a pool company. So we know by diversification, a larger area, better trained staff, more people out there talking to the public, that we can make up for whatever losses we saw with these, what we'll call more challenging. I think you would agree, you're in real estate, it's a little more challenging right now.
More challenging than before.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
for
then
sure.
personally, just never, I probably the better way to put it is I'm always hungry. So I have a goal to run an ultra marathon. I do that April 1st.
This year?
This year.
In 3
And
weeks?
3 weeks. I've had this goal for some time. So I didn't just start this week. I've been training for a while. And again, this is the shortest version, so this is 31 miles for the 50K. So I want to go do that. And then it's time to set a new goal. Someday I hope to run a 100-mile race. Again, if God's willing and I have my strength, I'll do that. Another goal is to be sure I take my wife out more. So we celebrated last August our 20th anniversary.
Happy anniversary to you.
Thank you. It was 20 years. It's like, I can't believe it. And I took her to Hawaii, and this was the first time we'd been away from kids for more than 2 days in 20 years, or since we started having kids.
Right.
And we were like, how could it have been this long? We've always had some kids around, and it was a really good experience for us to just have me and her. And so I promised that we'd try to do something like that every year, maybe not to that extent of going to Hawaii. That's a pretty big deal. So I already got another trip booked. It's a shorter one. We're just going to Colorado for a few days, but just me and her. We're going to go have some time. And I just want to make sure I take good care of her, because I think there's a lot of moms out there, wives, that their husbands don't always maybe do the best job really taking care of and appreciating them. And I'll put myself there first. I needed to do a better job. And so this is me saying, hey, I can't change the past, but I can work with what's now, and I can make decisions that will impact the future. And I want that future to be one of a happy wife. And so, and then just making sure I take the time with the kids, there's 10 different personalities, 10 different sets of dreams. And my oldest is already in college, and my youngest, she's just 1.5. So just making sure that each one of them gets my time and attention. And the oldest ones will all tell you that I've spent time with them. I take them out and we do stuff outdoors. I like to hunt and fish. I take them out and do stuff like that, or we go hiking and take my girls out. And I play with the little kids. And so I just want to make sure that I continue to devote that time to each of them, so they can't say that their dad wasn't involved, in their life. So.
what incredible vision that Mike just showed here. That was an honor just sitting here listening, and that was the whole purpose behind this interview, because I wanted to everybody here to have an opportunity to listen to incredible stories that I just knew Mike had to share. Well, Mike, thank you so much. So if you guys have not heard of Drippe Homes before, now this is the man behind all the success and operation. Give him a shout, give the company a try for your next new build, and they would not disappoint you.
Chen, thank you very much for having me over here. It's been an honor to speak with you and to kind of share my life journey. So,
We'll talk some more, Mike.
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yeah.
What's this?